Please do not cross the procession and do not stand in the way of the procession. The procession is led by staff and the Students Affairs Unit of the University, Mr. Mustafa. And in the procession, ladies and gentlemen, are best students in their various departments. And these are students with CGPA of nothing less than 4.5. I mentioned to Rose how blessed this university has been. So the leadership of this university thought it wise to always have them introduced, showcased, and also celebrated at all our events. And this is exactly what we have just done to them. Thank you very much for honoring our university scholars. Please be seated. The man amongst the men, Adeboye Prof. You're welcome, sir. You're very much welcome. And yes, I was about introducing someone very special to us before we welcome the procession of our university scholars. Ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome the man beside the success of Professor Hannah Olawumi, Pastor Olawumi, the husband of the inaugural lecturer. Sir, please, you rise for recognition, sir. They want you to turn around very well. They didn't see your face. So thank you very much, sir, for taking a very good care of Prof. And to the children are also here. Please kindly rise for recognition. Thank you for making it easy for mommy. We appreciate you. Well, I am aware we have Mama, the mother of the inaugural lecturer, here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Mama Oninko that we are saying congratulations to today, Mrs. Victoria Oluwafumilayo Onifade. Thank you very much, ma. Congratulations. So good to see you. And walking majestically to his seat there is a retired but not tired Professor Gbadebo Olawumi. Professor and Mama Olawumi, you're welcome, sir and ma. So good to see you. Welcome, members of the Fourth Estate of the REN, the press. Thank you for coming. And want to appreciate each and every one of you. Professor Idowu, Professor Adetoyin Idowu. Oh, okay. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, you're very much welcome. Welcoming also a former Dean, Clinical Sciences, currently the Director, Central Research Laboratory, Professor Ibrahim Adeola Katibi. You're welcome, sir. You're not clapping. All right. So sorry for that break in transmission. Uh, again, I want to welcome all of you. Uh, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to us another very special person, especially in the life of inaugural lecturer. And this is talking her teacher, her trainer, and her mentor, Professor J.O. Adewi. Professor Adewi, sir, you're welcome. I'd like to also welcome Professor Tunde Ayimode. Professor Ayimode, you're very much welcome. And so also I recognize the presence of Dr. Ernest. Dr. Ernest, you're welcome, man. And where's your other half? All right, you're all very much welcome. Professor Obaleye, you're recognized, sir. You're very much welcome, sir. Please put your hands together for them. Recognizing the presence of the DR Academic Support Services, Mr. Moses Opaleke. You're welcome, sir. Okay, let's briefly about the woman, the reason why we're here today. Well, Professor Hannah Oluwayemisi Olawumi was born. Is there anything like Tuwood, Lurud, Begirid? Okay. Anyway, she was born here in Ilorin. She schooled also here in Ilorin up to when she joined the services of the University of Ilorin in the year 2000. And she rose through the ranks, to become a professor in the year 2017. I thought you would clap. But since, and of course, this is someone who's been doing wonderfully well amongst, her colleagues at the college and the university, and I has really served the university. She has really served, and she's still serving the university meritoriously. Formerly the director stem cell of the university, formerly head of her department. Please, once again, let's appreciate Professor Olawumi. In her area of teaching, she has taught so many people, and of course, she has supervised so many theses and dissertations, and so many of them have actually passed through her. Well, the Vice Chancellor will be here to put number to that. Meanwhile, I'd like to welcome Professor Abayomi Fadeyi. You're welcome, sir. Professor Caleb Ogunkunle, you're also very much welcome. You're recognized, sir. And, well, still talking Professor Olawumi, our inaugural lecturer today. She, of course, has so many papers, books, in reputable journals, local, national, international, she has to her credit. And of course, she's married to our pastor, Olawumi, who is here seated. So once again, we want to appreciate Pastor Olawumi for taking a very good care of her. And distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to us Professor, and also welcome Professor and Professor Adesina. Professor and Professor Adesina, you are welcome. Where are you seated, sir? Okay. You're welcome. We have Professor Bolaji. I introduced him earlier. Once again, you're very much welcome, Professor Bolaji. We have Professor P.O. Ajiboye. Professor Ajiboye, you're very much welcome. I can see Professor Lukman Olayaki also here. You're welcome, sir. Let's put our hands together for all of these people, the wonderful people we have here. They're all here, to support their own. So to all our lecturers, teachers, researchers, students from the College of Health Sciences, put your hands together for yourselves. And ladies and gentlemen, let me also introduce to you our former university librarian and the chairman, library and publications of the university, distinguished Professor Abdul Wahab Olariwaju Insa. Sir, you're welcome. Okay. Well, I've told you how the university actually started. I've told you just briefly about the faculty because of our time. The college. And talking the Faculty of Basic Clinical Sciences now. You see, what is known today as the College of Health Sciences of the University of Ilorin was formerly known as the Faculty of Health Sciences. And in April 2004, as I told you, was when we had the college assumed, the faculty assumed collegiate status. I'm talking about the department that brought all of us together. You see, the Department of Hematology is one of the four arms of pathology in the Faculty of Basic Clinical Sciences in the College of Health Sciences of the University of Ilorin, Nigeria. And of course, the department is involved in the teaching of all aspects of hematology and transfusion medicine to undergraduate medical students, especially those ones in their 400 level of the MBBS program. And Professor Joe Adewu, that I introduced to us earlier, was the first head of the department. Once again, let's appreciate Prof. And he served in that capacity at different times for several years. And others who have served as head of the department at various times also include Professor P.O. Olatunji, Professor Hannah Oluwayemisi, Olawumi, the inaugural lecturer of today. We had also Professor A.S. Babatunde. Professor Babatunde is in the house. Okay. You're welcome, sir. We have Professor Eroshi. So please, let's put our hands together for the Chief Medical Director, UITH, Professor Abdullahi Da Silva Yusuf. Yes, we've also had Professor Shitu as the head of the department. Professor Shitu, I've not seen him today. Is he here? Okay. And of course, Dr. Idat Durotoye. And the current head of the department is Professor A.S. Babatunde. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. So that's the host HOD. You're welcome, sir. So, and today's lecture, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, well, I've told you, just as you know, it is the 297th in the series. But I told you earlier that when we break it down, this is the 60th lecture from the College of Health Sciences. And it is the 4th from the Faculty of Basic Clinical Sciences. And the very best from the Department of Hematology. We'd like to appreciate all of the 278 professors who've been here before her. Thank you all for ensuring a very solid foundation for Professor Olawumi. So no fear, Let your mind be at rest because the foundation upon which she's coming to build has been solidly laid. So just let your mind be at rest. And especially for the inaugural lecturers before her from the college, the 59 of them before today. Thank you very much. And most especially from our department, from our faculty, the Faculty of Basic Clinical Sciences. We want to thank Professor Yeo Afolayan once again. His lecture was the first from the faculty, and it was the 212th in the series. It was delivered on the 9th of December 2021, and Baba titled that lecture, Cancer, the Sledgehammer of Death? No, not a death sentence. The if was what we were here to listen to that day. And the 218th in the series happened to be the second from the Faculty of Basic Clinical Sciences. And it was delivered by our former Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research, Technology and Innovation, Professor Mikhail Olayinka Buhari, dated back to the 24th of November 2022. He titled his lecture, The Doctor's Doctor, Weighing Clinical and Morphological Evidence to Make Life-Changing Decisions. And on the 13th of June 2024, we had the third from the faculty. It happens to be the 260th in the series, and it was by Professor Olufunke Esan Odlorundare. She titled the lecture In Sickness and Good Health, Pharmacology as Systems Medicine Research Kernel. These are the three lecturers before Professor Olawumi from the faculty. And today, she's coming to be the fourth lecturer from the Faculty of Basic Clinical Sciences. And she has titled her lecture, Heroes Without Capes, the Life-Saving Power of Blood Sacrifice. What is this about? That's why we're here today. Meanwhile, I'd like to quickly recognize the presence of Mama Johnson. Mommy, you're very much welcome. Please, let's put our hands together for her. And ladies and gentlemen, now is the time to listen to the 297th in the series of inaugural lectures of this university. Shall we all rise to welcome the procession of the Vice Chancellor? Please do not stand in the way of the procession. Do not cross the procession, and do not exchange pleasantries with the procession. We remain standing as we observe the university anthem. Be seated.
The Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research, Technology and Innovation, the Registrar, the University Librarian, the representative of the Provost, deans, heads of departments, directors of various units, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Senate, I welcome all of us to the 279th inaugural lecture of our great university titled Heroes Without Capes, the Life-Saving Power of Blood Sacrifice, to be delivered by Professor Anna Oluwayemisi Olawumi. Professor Anna Oluwayemisi Olawumi was born on 12th August 1968 to the family of late engineer Michael Olabode Onifade and Mrs. Victoria Oluwafunmilayo Onifade in Ilorin, Kwara State. She attended Baptist LSMB Primary School in Ilorin for primary education from 1973 to 1979 and Federal Government College in Ilorin for her secondary school education from 1979 to 1984. She gained admission to study medicine at the University of Ilorin in 1984 and graduated with Bachelor of Nursing, Bachelor of Surgery in 1991. Professor Oluwayemisi began her postgraduate medical training in hematology in 1993 at the University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital, culminating the fellowship of the West African College of Physicians in laboratory medicine in 1999. Professor Oluwayemisi Olawumi joined the services of the University of Ilorin Department of Hematology as a lecturer one in 2000 and rose through the ranks to become a professor of hematology in 2017. Professor Oluwayemisi Olawumi has successfully collaborated to supervise several fellowship dissertations and one PhD thesis. She's a member of many learned and professional bodies, and this includes International Society of Blood Transfusion, International Society of Hematology, Nigerian Medical Association, British Blood Transfusion Society, Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria. She has served in various capacities within and outside the university, including Director, Stem Cells Research Center 2020 to 2023, World Department of Nematology 2016 to 2020, Member Ethical Review Committee of the Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences 2012 to both, Member College of Health Sciences, Curriculum Committee 2005 to both, Member Task Force on Open Heart Surgery, University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital 2015 to date, Honorary Consultant Hematologist, Department of Hematology and Blood Transfusion, University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital 2015. Visiting Professor, Bowen University, 2024 to both, Adjunct Professor of Ekiti State University, Ado-Ekiti 2020, among many others. Professor Olawumi is a recipient of several academic awards, including Global Health Travel Scholarship Award, funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Whistler British Columbia, Canada 2011, Senate Social Grant Award on seroprevalence of HIV, hepatitis B and C, and syphilis among patients with mental illness 2010. Best Candidate Scholarship Award by National Postgraduate College of Pathologists 1996. All-State Scholarship for Nursing 1985 to 1991. Best Student in Mathematics, Federal Government College, Ilorin 1984, graduating sets, to mention but a few. Professor Oluwayemisi Olawumi has over 80 publications in reputable home-based, national and international journals, edited conference proceedings, and chapters in books. She has served as external examiner to many universities across Nigeria. She has also attended many conferences, workshops, and seminars within and outside the country. Professor Anna Oluwayemisi Olawumi enjoys gardening and working out. She's happily married to Pastor Oluwatoyin Olawale Olawumi, the Director, Legal Drafting, Ministry of Justice, Kwara State, and the union is blessed with 4 children. Welcome with me, Professor Anna Oluwayemisi Olawumi, in the 279th inaugural lecture.
The Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Deputy Vice Chancellor Management Services, Deputy Vice Chancellor Research, Technology and Innovation, the Registrar, the Bursar, the University Librarian, members of the University Governing Council, the Provost of the College of Health Sciences, the Dean Faculty of Basic Clinical Sciences, Deans of other faculties, postgraduate school and student affairs, directors of various centers and units, professors and other members of Senate, Chief Medical Director and other principal staff of University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital, heads of department, especially Department of Hematology, all academic and non-teaching staff, great students of this noble institution, especially medical students, my lords, spiritual and temporal, your royal highnesses, gentlemen of print and electronic media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. In the name of God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I stand before you today to deliver the 279th inaugural lecture of this great university, the first in the Faculty of Basic Clinical Sciences and the first in the Department of Hematology. Vice Chancellor, sir, I thank you for this incredible privilege. Hematology is a branch of medicine focused on the study of blood and blood-forming organs, including the diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of diseases affecting the blood, bone marrow, and the immunological, hemostatic, and vascular systems. A hematologist is a pathologist who serves as both a laboratory physician and a clinician. Hematology is divided into general hematology, coagulation, hematological malignancies, and blood transfusion. My research encompasses all these areas, but primarily focuses on blood transfusion. Therefore, as indicated by the title of this lecture, I will focus on an important aspect of blood transfusion, specifically blood donors and donations. My journey into hematology. When I was in primary school, my late father would wake me up at 5 a.m. every morning for maths lesson. He also taught me maths on visiting days when I was in boarding school at Federal Government College, Ilorin. Mathematics became my favorite subject, and I became a maths teacher to my classmates and graduated as the top student in mathematics in my set. At that time, I thought he wanted me to be a mathematician. But surprisingly, when I did my first JAM in 1984, he chose medicine for me. However, I was not given admission to study medicine, so I enrolled for A levels at FBC in Ilorin in 1984 with a subject combination of physics, chemistry, biology, which was for medicine. However, I missed math so much that I independently changed to physics, chemistry, mathematics, intending to pursue electrical engineering instead of medicine. When my father found out about the change, he came to school and asked me, "What course do you want to study with physics, chemistry, mathematics?" I replied, "I want to study electrical engineering." And then he asked, "Do you want to be climbing NEPA poles?" I responded, "No, sir." And he said, "You have to change your subject combination back to physics, chemistry, biology, and study medicine." So I did. In 1985, 1 year into my A levels, I eventually got admission to study medicine through my second attempt at JAM, and that was how my journey to becoming a medical doctor began. In medical school, I developed a passion for hematology, one of the 4 branches of pathology. My lecturer, Professor J.O. Adewuyi, was an excellent teacher. His effective teaching helped me understand hematology so well that it became my favorite subject. I am honored to have Professor Adewuyi here today. Thank you, sir, for your impact on my life. I love that hematology encompasses both laboratory and clinical aspects, and this with blood, which is central to all medical disciplines. Anytime there's an industrial action and all laboratories shut down, the blood bank remains operational because it is the heart of the hospital. Thus, I started my residency program in hematology in December 1993, focusing on blood transfusion as a specialist. Mr. Vice Chancellor and distinguished audience, I am grateful to God for sparing my life and enabling me by the Spirit to deliver the 279th inaugural lecture of the Better by Far University, my alma mater, titled Heroes Without Capes, the Life-Saving Power of Blood Sacrifice. I will start by discussing each key phrase in the title of this lecture and then share my various contributions to knowledge on today's subject matter. Heroes without capes. The English dictionary defines heroes as individuals who demonstrate exceptional bravery, courage, and selflessness. They are willing to take risks and make sacrifices for benefit of others. When we think of a hero, we often picture a caped crusader like Superman, soaring through the sky to rescue people from danger. However, today I want to discuss heroes who do not wear capes, whose acts of kindness and sacrifice have far-reaching effects. I am referring to our voluntary blood donors who regularly donate blood anonymously and without recognition, yet whose contributions save lives. Life-saving power. Every 2 seconds, someone around the world needs blood and depends on the kindness of strangers for survival. Blood is essential for medical treatment, but it is often in short supply. Women experiencing bleeding after childbirth, patients battling leukemia, those with sickle cell anemia, and patients undergoing cancer treatment, organ transplant, or major surgeries all depend on blood to survive. The transfusion of blood and blood products helps save millions of lives each year, enhancing life expectancy and improving the quality of life for patients facing life-threatening conditions, while supporting complex medical and surgical procedures. 1 pint of blood can save up to 3 lives because it can be separated into 3 components: red blood cells, plasma, and platelets, each of which can assist different patients with different medical conditions. Early in my medical career, while working as a house officer, I was on call in emergency pediatric ward one night when a 10-year-old boy was brought in by his mother. He was extremely pale, nearly paper white. His PCV was 8%. However, we were able to save his life by administering a pint of blood. The blood that saved this child's life was donated by an anonymous individual whose generosity made the crucial difference between life and death. This highlights the importance of blood donation in sustaining life. It is no wonder the Bible states in Leviticus 17:11, "For the life of the flesh is in the blood." Blood sacrifice. Blood sacrifice is a rite involving the shedding of blood believed to release the vital forces that sustain life. This practice transcends culture, religion, and geography. In African traditional religion, animal sacrifice through bloodletting aims to appease the gods, with blood offered in exchange for a sick person. In Islam, animal sacrifice is an important ritual performed starting on the 10th day of the month of Zulhijjah. This sacrifice symbolizes commitment to Allah and provides an opportunity to assist those in need. For Christians, according to the law of Moses, nearly everything was purified by blood. For without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. The blood sacrifice of the Passover lamb also protected the firstborns of Israelites from the angel of death. However, the New Testament contains many references to the cleansing and reconciling power found in the blood of Jesus. The death of Jesus on the cross represents one-time blood sacrifice for the remission of sins and salvation. However, in this lecture, when I refer to blood sacrifice, I mean voluntary blood donation. This act of sacrifice arises from compassion and empathy and involves willingly giving about 1/10 of one's blood to someone in need. This sacrifice is invaluable and can make the difference between life and death. It is truly a gift of life. Blood donation and transfusion services in Nigeria. Blood transfusion was first performed in Nigeria in the 1940s, particularly for patients suffering from severe trauma or surgical complications. At that time, however, there was no organized blood banks or formal donation systems. Blood was provided as needed by family members and friends of the patients. After Nigeria's independence in 1960, the country began to modernize its healthcare infrastructure. As hospitals and clinics expanded, blood banks gradually emerged in urban hospitals to create a more systemic approach to collecting, storing, and distributing blood. However, Nigeria faced numerous significant challenges regarding blood donation during this period, including a lack of awareness about necessity for regular voluntary blood donations, fears of potential health risks, misconceptions, religious prohibitions against blood exchange, and concerns about blood safety, particularly with the rise of HIV and AIDS in the 1980s. Vice Chancellor, sir, the operation of the National Blood Service Agency commenced in 2005 as the National Blood Transfusion Service through a multilateral partnership between the federal government of Nigeria and the United States government. The legal framework establishing the National Blood Transfusion Service is the National Health Act of 2014. The National Blood Service Agency Bill was signed into law on July 29, 2021 to strengthen the National Health Act of 2014 and to enable the service to function as a commission. The National Blood Transfusion Service was tasked with establishing regional blood transfusion centers across Nigeria, promoting the practice of voluntary blood donation, and ensuring safety and quality of donated blood through rigorous screening for diseases. According to the WHO, the minimum number of blood units required to meet demand for blood and blood products is at least 1% of a country's population. With a population of about 200 million, Nigeria needs around 2 million units of blood annually to satisfy this demand. However, only an estimated 1.2 million units are collected across various facilities each year. Less than 5% of these total blood donations come from voluntary donors, while over 90% are sourced from commercial and family replacement donors. As a result, blood is in short supply to meet this demand. World Blood Donor Day. Every year on June 14th, countries around the world, including Nigeria, celebrate World Blood Donor Day. This event aims to raise awareness about the need for safe blood and blood products, while also thanking and honoring voluntary unpaid donors for their life-saving contributions. However, World Blood Donor Day is more than just a gesture of gratitude. It also serves as a call to action. It reminds us that blood donation is a community responsibility and that by donating regularly, we can all contribute to building a healthier, more compassionate world. The day also underscores the importance of global cooperation in achieving health goals. When countries work together to promote voluntary blood donation, share best practices, and support developing nations in strengthening their blood services, we can move closer to a world where no one dies due to lack of safe blood. The global theme for World Blood Donor Day changes each year. The theme for this year is honoring the heroes of life. At the University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital, we join the global community in celebrating World Blood Donor Day every year. The blood. Blood is a fluid that circulates throughout the body in blood vessels, and it is essential for life. It carries oxygen and nutrients to organs and tissues and helps to remove waste. Blood also plays a crucial role in fighting infections and supporting the body's healing processes. Blood travels approximately 12,000 miles within the body and pumps around 2,000 gallons every day. This extensive circulation ensures that blood reaches all parts of the body, supplying tissues with substances necessary for normal functioning, growth, and cell reproduction. Aside from the heart, which pumps blood, no other tissue or organ in the human body works as tirelessly as blood does. Blood can be broadly categorized into blood cells and plasma. Blood cells are produced in the bone marrow and they include red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Red blood cells primarily contain hemoglobin, which transports oxygen from the lungs and carbon dioxide back to the lungs. White blood cells are crucial to the body's immune system, combating infections and diseases. There are various types of white blood cells, including neutrophils, lymphocytes, monocytes, eosinophils, and basophils, as shown in Figure 1. Platelets are cells that aid in blood clotting. They cluster together to form a clot when there's a cut, helping to control bleeding and prevent excessive blood loss. Plasma, which constitutes about 55% of blood volume, is mainly composed of water, but also contains proteins, fatty substances, salts, nutrients, vitamins, and hormones. The plasma proteins include albumin, globulin, and coagulation factors, all of which are involved in various physiological processes. Albumin is essential for maintaining colloid osmotic pressure and transporting substances in the blood. Globulins, categorized into alpha, beta, and gamma, primarily serve as transport proteins, with the gamma portion also playing a role in humoral immunity. Coagulation factors assist platelets in the clotting process. Normal ranges of blood counts. Hematological parameters in a complete blood count are among the most frequently requested investigations for routine medical checkup and preliminary assessment of many diseases across all fields of medicine. They are also commonly used to monitor the treatment of various conditions and determine the need for blood transfusions. Normal hematological reference values differ among individuals of varying races, ages, and gender. They are higher among Caucasians than in blacks, and additionally, these parameters are higher in men than in women after puberty. To accurately interpret and ascertain the clinical implications of the complete blood count for any individual in a state of health or disease, it is essential to understand the normal reference range for that locality. Therefore, Olawumi et al. 2015 determined the reference values of hematologic parameters for healthy adults in Ilorin to provide standards for interpreting laboratory results and assessing the need for blood transfusions. The red cell count, hemoglobin concentration, packed cell volume, and mean cell corpuscular hemoglobin concentration were higher in males than in females, while the platelet count, total white cell count, and the absolute neutrophil count were higher in females than in males. The hematological reference values obtained in this study were lower than those currently used at the hospital, as shown in Table 1. Olawumi 2019. Olawumi et al. 2015 also compared the mean values of hematological parameters in this study with those from JAWS and several other African countries and the Western world, as shown in Table 2. The lower values of hematological parameters in most African countries compared to the Western world may be attributed to malaria prevalence, intestinal parasite infestations, and dietary, environmental, and genetic factors. Blood products and uses. Blood products are therapeutic substances derived from human blood. They encompass whole blood and various blood components for transfusion, as well as plasma derivatives. Blood components are processed through physical methods like centrifugation, freezing, and thawing. These components consist of red cell concentrate, platelet concentrate, granulocyte concentrate, fresh frozen plasma, and cryoprecipitate. Plasma derivatives are partially purified therapeutic preparations made in pharmaceutical companies from large volumes of human plasma. They include albumin, coagulation factors, and immunoglobulins. Each of these blood products have specific applications and can be life-saving. However, when used inappropriately, they can also be fatal. Olawumi 2022. The Vice Chancellor, sir, I would like to enumerate some uses of blood components. Number one, red cell concentrate is used to save the lives of patients with cancer undergoing chemotherapy, trauma victims experiencing severe hemorrhage, women suffering from postpartum hemorrhage, patients with end-stage renal disease, and others with symptomatic anemia. Platelet concentrate is used to save the lives of patients suffering from acute leukemia, DIC, and others experiencing thrombocytopenic bleeding. Fresh frozen plasma contains coagulation factors and is used to save the lives of patients with thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura hemolytic uremic syndrome, bleeding due to warfarin overdose, and other types of bleeding caused by coagulation factor deficiency. Number 4, cryoprecipitate primarily contain fibrinogen along with other factors such as factors 8, 13, and von Willebrand's factor. Therefore, it can be used to save the lives of patients with congenital and acquired fibrinogen deficiency, hemophilia A, von Willebrand's disease, and other related conditions. The appropriate use of blood involves transfusing the correct blood product to the right patient at the right time and place. Safe, effective, appropriate, and quality assured blood products play a crucial role in improving and saving millions of lives each year by addressing issues related to child and maternal health. They also significantly enhance the life expectancy and quality of life of patients suffering from inherited and acquired disease. Furthermore, they facilitate complex medical and surgical procedures, including transplantation. Blood and blood components request and utilization. The increasing demand for blood and blood products is often met with limited supply. Therefore, blood ordering and transfusion practices in our various hospitals should be regularly reviewed to minimize wastage. Olawumi and Bolaji et al. 2006 evaluated blood utilization in elective surgical procedures over a 6-month period to establish a framework for developing a maximum surgical ordering schedule for UITH. Our findings revealed that 69.7% of cross-match blood for various surgeries were not utilized. Olatunji and Olawumi et al. 2004 also reviewed the pattern and content of blood transfusion requests for trauma patients in UITH, discovering that 9% of total requests were related to trauma cases. The blood bank responded by cross-matching for 81% of these patients. However, only 37% of those were transfused. Regarding blood requests, Olawumi and Adewi et al. 2007 found that obstetric and gynecology unit had the highest number of requests, but was the least efficient in utilizing cross-match blood. The pediatrics unit made the fewest requests, but were the most efficient in utilizing cross-match blood. Blood donor selection criteria. Blood donation is governed by principles that safeguard the well-being of both the donors and the recipient. Blood donor selection criteria aims to exclude anyone whose blood might harm the recipient or who might be harmed by donating blood. It is intended to protect both the donor and the recipient. It is therefore subdivided into criteria for the protection of donors and criteria for the protection of recipients. Olawumi 2022. Vice Chancellor, sir, I would like to enumerate just the donor selection criteria for the protection of blood donors. And they include, number 1, age range of 17 to 65 years. 2, donor weight of at least 50 kg. Number 3, hemoglobin level for male donor of at least 13.5 grams per dl, and for a female donor of at least 12.5 grams per dl. Donation interval of 3 to 4 months for male donors and 4 to 6 months for female donors. Then vital signs including pulse rate, temperature, and blood pressure should be within normal limits. Female donors are deferred during pregnancy and for at least 3 months after delivery or following abortion or miscarriage, and during lactation to allow for recovery of iron stores. It is important to note that menstruation is not a reason for deferral, except for women who have regular excessive menstrual bleeding and are found to have low hemoglobin levels. However, in a study conducted by Olawumi et al. 2023 among women in Nigeria, it was alarming to discover that 12.6% of deferrals among women were due to menstruation. The concern for jeopardizing the health of a woman who volunteers to donate blood while menstruating is significant. Research has shown that regular menstruation does not impact women's ability to donate as long as she's not experiencing heavy bleeding and her hemoglobin is above 12.5 grams per dl. Benefits of blood donation. Regular blood donation reduces harmful lipids and blood viscosity, which are recognized risk factors for cardiovascular disease. Olawumi et al. 2016 investigated the effect of repeated blood donation on the lipid profiles of blood donors in Ilorin, using the first-time donors as controls, and found that a higher proportion of first-time donors had elevated risks for cardiovascular disease compared to regular donors. 2, excess iron is linked to heart disease, and blood donation helps decrease the likelihood of iron accumulation in the body. This explains why women of childbearing age who lose blood monthly through menstruation have a lower risk of heart attacks compared to men in the same age group. Olawumi et al. 2017 assessed the blood iron stores of blood donors in Ilorin by measuring serum ferritin and found that regular donors had lower serum ferritin levels than first-time donors. This suggests that regular blood donation benefits cardiovascular health and offers protection against heart attacks. 3. Epidemiological studies have indicated a connection between excess iron and an increased risk and an increase in cancer incidence and risk. This suggests that blood donation may also lower the risk of developing cancer. 4. Regular blood donation also provides an opportunity for routine health checks and helps identify health issues that a donor may not be aware of. If any issue with the vital signs or other health concerns are detected, prospective donors are referred to a physician for further evaluation and management. Then lastly, altruism and volunteering like blood donation have also been associated with positive health outcomes, including a lower risk of depression and increased longevity. Types of blood donors. Blood donors are categorized into 3 types. Number 1, voluntary unpaid donors are those who give blood without receiving payment. They are the heroes without capes. Number 2, family replacement donors are those who give blood to replace the blood loaned to their family members or friends. Number 3, paid donors are individuals who donate blood in exchange for money. Vice Chancellor, sir, most blood donations in Nigeria come from family replacement and paid donors, with less than 5% from voluntary unpaid donors. Olawumi and Adewuyi 2012 reviewed blood donation trends in Ilorin over a 5-year period and found 97.7% of donors were family replacement donors, while only 2.2% were voluntary donors. This raises questions about the absence of paid donors in these statistics, considering that most blood banks have touts trading in blood. In a study conducted to uncover the true family status of family replacement donors within Nigerians' blood service, approximately half of the presumed family replacement donors were found to be false family donors. In other words, they were paid donors who disguised as family replacement donors. Shitu et al. 2019. This study highlights that many donors in Nigeria are actually paid donors. Transfusion transmissible infections. Transfusion transmissible infections are infections that can be transmitted from a donor to a recipient through blood transfusion. These infections may be caused by viruses, bacteria, parasites, or prions. Viral agents that can be transmitted through blood transfusion include HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, cytomegalovirus, and so on. Protozoa that can be transmitted through transfusion include Plasmodium species, which cause malaria, T. cruzi responsible for Chagas disease, and so on. The WHO recommends that all blood donations mandatorily undergo screening for HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and syphilis before use. All these infections are routinely screened for in Nigeria, except for syphilis, which is not tested for in most centers. Most screening tests are designed to detect antibodies, so there's an inherent window period risk of infectivity. This window period risk positively correlates with the prevalence of the specific infectious agents within a given population. By analyzing the prevalence and trends of these TTIs among blood donors, we can better assess the likelihood of acquiring any of these infections through blood transfusions. Consequently, Olawumi et al. 2017 undertook a retrospective study examining the prevalence and trends of HIV, hepatitis B, C, and C among blood donors in Ilorin from 2011 to 2015. Of the almost 37,000 donors screened over the 5-year period, the prevalence rate for hepatitis B surface antigen, HIV, and hepatitis C virus were 12.9%, 2.2%, and 1.9% respectively. There was a gradual decline in the prevalence of hepatitis B surface antigen and HIV, but HCV prevalence showed fluctuations throughout the 5-year period, as shown in Figure 2. Research conducted in developed countries and sub-Saharan Africa have shown that voluntary blood donors are safer than family replacement donors concerning disease transmission. However, many studies did not differentiate between first-time and repeat donors. Repeat donors would have tested negative during a previous donation, allowing for further donations, which leads to a biased comparison with first-time donors, whether they are voluntary or replacement. Since family replacement donors are the primary source of blood in our hospital blood banks, Olawumi et al. 2016 decided to review the relative safety of donations from family replacement donors by comparing their prevalence rates for TTIs with those of voluntary donors, considering both first-time and repeat donors. We found that first-time family replacement donors have overall higher prevalence rates than first-time voluntary donors, but repeat family replacement donors have similar prevalence rates to repeat voluntary donors. Malaria and blood safety. Vice Chancellor, sir, malaria parasite was among the first organisms identified as transmissible through blood transfusion. The earliest documented case occurred in 1911. In countries where malaria is not endemic, travel history and serological tests are utilized to screen donors who may transmit malaria parasite. However, in malaria endemic countries, including Nigeria, serological tests are ineffective for screening donors as most residents have developed anti-malaria antibodies. The absence of routine screening in malaria endemic areas such as Nigeria presents a specific threat to vulnerable blood recipients, including visitors to the region, children who have not developed partial immunity, pregnant women not receiving standard malaria prophylaxis, individuals living with HIV and AIDS, and others with compromised immune system. Olawumi et al. 2014 determined the prevalence of malaria parasite in Ilorin and find a prevalence of 27.3%, with P. falciparum accounting for 85.7%. This suggests that the prevalence of malaria parasite among blood donors in Ilorin is significantly high, and the lack of routine screening puts recipients, especially immunocompromised patients, at considerable risk. While screening for malaria will enhance donor blood safety, it might also decrease the number of eligible donors. Prophylactic anti-malaria treatment may be administered to recipients, particularly those who are immunocompromised. Syphilis and blood safety. Syphilis is primarily a sexually transmitted infection caused by Treponema pallidum. It can also be transmitted vertically from mother to child and through blood transfusions. Treponema pallidum does not survive well at 4 degrees Celsius, and blood is likely to be non-effective after 4 days of refrigeration. The organism is more readily transmitted in platelet concentrates due to the room temperature storage and the short shelf life, as well as in situations where patients receive fresh whole blood transfusions. One of the key values of the serological test for syphilis is its role as a surrogate marker for lifestyle associated with higher risk for HIV and HCV infections, which includes multiple sexual partners, homosexuality, and intravascular drug use. Olawumi et al. 2014 conducted a study to determine the prevalence of syphilis among blood donors in Ilorin and examined the relationship between seropositivity and lifestyles associated with high risk for HIV and hepatitis infections. The seroprevalence of syphilis among blood donors was found to be 1.1%. None of the seropositive donors had a lifestyle associated with high risk for HIV and hepatitis. Blood group systems. More than 300 red cell antigens have been identified. Most of these antigens are categorized into blood group systems, including ABO, RH, formerly known as rhesus, MNS, KEL, Lewis, Duffy, KEL, among others. The ABO blood group was the first to be identified and remains the most significant blood group system. The RH system was the fourth to be recognized, but is the second most important. The clinical significance of a blood group system lies in the frequency of its antibodies and the potential for those antibodies to destroy incompatible red blood cells in vivo. Within the ABO system, there are 4 blood types: AB, and O, with the blood group O being the most common. The RH system is more complex than the ABO system, featuring about over 50 different antigens. However, there are 5 major ones, including D, big C, small c, big E, and small e. The D antigen is the most significant and is the only one that is routinely tested for in blood grouping. An individual with D antigen is D positive, while a person lacking the D antigen is D negative. Universal donors. Mr. Vice Chancellor, a universal donor is someone who can give blood to recipients of all blood types. In the ABO system, Group O donors are known as universal donors because Group O blood has the lowest risk of causing serious reactions when transfused to an individual with a different ABO group. It has long been recognized that the so-called universal donors possess ABO antibodies in their plasma known as anti-A and anti-B hemolysis. These hemolysis can destroy the recipient red blood cells, leading to a hemolytic transfusion reaction. Individuals with blood group O who carry these hemolysis are referred to as dangerous universal donors. The risk of a hemolytic transfusion reaction from transfusing group O donor blood to non-O recipient depends on the titer of the hemolysin and the amount of plasma in the component being transfused. The incidence and severity of ABO hemolytic disease of the newborn are higher in Africans than in Caucasians. It has been suggested that the increased incidence of hemolytic disease of the newborn is attributed to the extremely high hemolytic activity of anti-A and anti-B in Black group O individuals. This is believed to be linked to blood-sucking insects. Hemolysin titer typically ranges from 2 to 32. However, a virtual titer of 8 has been demonstrated to be potent enough to cause in vivo hemolysis. Olawumi and Olatunji et al. 2001 conducted a study involving 250 group O blood donors in UITH, revealing a prevalence of alpha and beta hemolysis of 23.2%. The proportion of the entire study population with a significant visual titer of 8 and above was low. This led us to conclude that routine screening for group O donors for hemolysis may not be necessary unless intended for use in a non-O recipient. Demographics of blood donors. In most developing countries, fewer than 10% of donations are made by female donors. The age profile of blood donors indicates that proportionally more young people donate blood in low and middle income countries compared to high income countries. In Nigeria, only about 1% of donors are women, more than half are single, and nearly half of voluntary donors are young adults aged 18 to 30 years. Therefore, youth and students in this age group represent the most suitable targets for focused advocacy on voluntary blood donation. Olawumi et al. 2012. Motivation, barriers, and myths of blood donation. Mr. Vice Chancellor, understanding the general knowledge, attitudes, and perceptions about blood donation in any population is critical for increasing and diversifying the blood supply. In a study conducted by Olawumi and Adeyemi in 2007 among university and polytechnic graduates in Nigeria, fewer than 10% of respondents had ever donated blood, typically as a one-time experience and primarily for family members. Reasons provided for non-donating included fear of negative health effects and lack of personal advocacy. Suggested motivational factors for blood donation included family needs, altruism, and self-testing. In another study among male blood donors in north-central Nigeria by Shitu et al. 2018, the majority were motivated to donate due to benefits of routine medical examinations and desire to save their relative lives. The major inhibitory factors included fear of HIV test results and concerns about being infected during donation. Some myths held by these men about blood donation included the fear of becoming sexually impotent after donation and the belief that donated blood units might be used for rituals. An appropriate educational program and an intensive blood donation campaign could help eliminate these barriers, debunk the myths surrounding blood donation, and increase the pool of blood donors in Nigeria. Women and blood donors and blood donation in Nigeria. Women are significantly underrepresented among blood donors in Nigeria. Most studies on the motivation and barriers to blood donation primarily focus on male donors. Consequently, Olawumi et al. 2023 conducted an internet-based study among women aged 18 to 65 years in the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria to identify potential barriers, motivators, and appealing incentives for women donating blood. The most common motivators for women included when a family member or friend needs blood, health benefits, and reminders to donate. The primary barriers for women who do not donate blood were poor attitude of hospital staff and fear of contracting infections. The most attractive incentive for blood donation included medical consultation and a blood donation certificate. We also identify factors associated with women's intentions to donate. Past blood donation experience and awareness that women can be potential eligible donors like men significantly reduce women's intention to donate blood in Nigeria. The main reason for deferral from blood donation was a low hemoglobin level. However, some women were incorrectly deferred due to menstruation and because of their gender. Further studies are needed to explore the perspectives and concerns of women, blood bank staff, and donor organizers regarding the eligibility of women as blood donors. Community service. University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital. I was appointed as a consultant hematologist in June 2000. I have served on various hospital committees and boards, including the Ethical Review Board, Cervicum Committee, Blood Transfusion Committee, HIV Committee, and the Task Force on Open Heart Surgery. Additionally, I have been privileged to head the Department of Hematology and Blood Transfusion multiple times for a decade. University of Ilorin. I also served on several committees at the university, including the College Gopis Committee, for which I was chairman in 2018. I held the position of head of Department of Hematology at various times for over 11 years. Additionally, I served as the director of the Stem Cell Research Center from November 2020 to July 2023. Associations and Society. I'm the current secretary of the Nigerian chapter of the African Society of Blood Transfusion, and I was the treasurer of the Medical and Dental Consultant Association of Nigeria Ilorin chapter from 2003 to 2005. General community. I served the nation as an NYC doctor at General Hospital Ogbomoso from November 1992 to October 1993. I was one of the WHO consultants for the second HIV/AIDS program development project midterm review and the joint annual review of Kwara State strategic plan in 2013. In 2009, I served as the lead consultant during the development of the 2010-2015 Kwara State strategic plan for the prevention and management of HIV/AIDS. I represented the Christian Association of Nigeria on the board of Kwara State Agency for Control of AIDS from 2004 to 2014. I have been an examiner for the West African College of Physicians since 2012 and also a member of the Marriage and Family Life Board in my church community. Conclusion. Voluntary blood donors, who are the safest source of blood and blood products, are the backbone of transfusion medicine. The need for blood is constant and urgent. The lives of many are perpetually at risk because the supply of blood in Nigeria cannot meet demand. We cannot afford to wait for a crisis to remind us of the importance of voluntary blood donation. The Vice Chancellor, sir, ladies and gentlemen, this inaugural lecture is a call for all of us to become heroes and offer what we have to help someone in need. If you have never donated blood, consider this your invitation. One donation can save up to 3 lives. It is a gift that costs you little, yet is worth more than gold to those who receive it. For those of you who may already be donors, I encourage you to continue donating and inspire others to do the same. You are already a hero, and by continuing to donate, you multiply your impact. So as we leave this auditorium today, let us all commit to donating blood regularly. Together, we can build a world where no one has to die because they cannot get the blood they need to survive. Remember, each donation you give is more than just a gift of blood. It is a gift of life. Recommendations. Mr. Vice Chancellor, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am optimistic that the following recommendation will help to increase the supply of donated blood in Nigeria. Number 1, national health authorities must facilitate the establishment of well-coordinated blood programs backed by appropriate legislation to increase the voluntary blood donor base. Adequate funds should also be provided for more intensive advocacy for voluntary blood donation. Number 2, more intense advocacy aimed at youth, promotion of peer education and motivation, and the broadening of the educational curriculum to instill a sense of civic responsibility at a young age should be implemented to increase voluntary blood donation among youths in Nigeria. Number 3, specific and focused capacity building initiatives should be introduced to foster a paradigm shift in the attitude of hospital staff, particularly those in the blood bank, towards their work. Number 4, female targeted donor education and awareness programs should also be implemented in Nigeria to enhance women's participation in blood donation. Number 5, the National Orientation Agency should engage in donor education and advocacy to alleviate fears and dispel myths about blood donation among Nigerians of all ages. 6, the donor selection criteria should be reviewed periodically to ensure there is no discrimination of any kind and to prevent the unnecessary deferral of suitable donors. And lastly, efforts should be focused on encouraging repeat family replacement donors to become regular voluntary donors, thereby improving and sustaining the blood supply in our blood banks. Acknowledgement. First of all, I want to express my deep appreciation and gratitude to the Lord God Almighty for making this day possible. All glory, honor, majesty, and power belongs to God. Hallelujah. I'm grateful to my parents, the late engineer Michael Olabode Onifade of blessed memory, and Mrs. Victoria Oluwayemisi Onifade for their exceptional and selfless love, support, and care that enabled me to reach this significant milestone. My mother is here, she's seated in front. My father always wanted me to become a professor, and I wish he could be here to witness today's event. I express my gratitude to my spiritual father, Reverend George Adegoye, the senior minister in charge of Rema Chapel International Churches, and his wife, Reverend Mrs. Olontoyin Adegoye, for their prayers, support, and significant impact on my life, family, and career. I appreciate my siblings and their families for their love and support. I am deeply grateful to my in-laws, the late Mr. Michael Olawumi of blessed memory, and Mrs. Esther Olawumi, my mother-in-law, for treating me like their own daughter. I also want to thank all my brothers and sisters-in-law and their families for their unwavering love and support. I appreciate all my uncles, aunties, cousins, nephews, and nieces, especially Dr. Babatunde Onifade, who graciously passed down his medical books, stethoscope, and anatomical bones to me when I enrolled in medical school. I am truly grateful, sir. I extend my gratitude to the in-laws of our children, Pastor and Minister Mrs. Ajala, Pastor and Mrs. Balogun. I appreciate your love and support. I especially thank Pastor Adeogun Ajala, a retired director of NTA, for sponsoring a documentary in honor of my inaugural lecture in the news line of NTA. I wish to express my gratitude to all the former vice chancellors of this great university, along with the current vice chancellor, Professor Wahab Olasupo Egbewole, for their exceptional leadership and opportunity to deliver this lecture. I appreciate the outstanding leadership of all past and present DVCs, registrars, directors, deans, professors, and Senate members of this esteemed institution. I would like to thank the former provost of the College of Health Sciences and the current provost, Professor B.S. Alabi, who was my classmate in medical school. Additionally, I want to extend my thanks to the deans of the 3 faculties within the college, especially Professor A. Akambitu, the Dean of the Faculty of Basic Clinical Sciences. I greatly value the editorial input of the chairman of the Library and Publication Committee in person of Professor A.O. Issa. I want to express my gratitude to the management and staff of the University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital. I especially thank all the former CMDs and Professor A.D. Yusuf, the current CMD. Special thanks also extended to the former and current CMATs and directors of administration. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all the current and former members of staff of the Department of Hematology, both at the university and the teaching hospital, including the head of department, Professor A.S. Babatunde, other professors, lecturers, and consultants such as Professor A. Oshitu, Dr. I.A. Durotoye, Dr. K.O. Omokaye, Dr. M.K. Ogunfemi, and Dr. A.M. Adepoju. All my trainees and mentees, some of whom are now in the professorial cadre, as well as past and present resident doctors, laboratory scientists, nurses, technicians, and administrative staff, who are too numerous to mention. Thank you all for your cooperation and support throughout my career journey. Special thanks also go to all the planning committee members of this inaugural lecture for their excellent work of publicity and logistics. I particularly would like to appreciate all my past and present trainees and mentees for their financial support and deep involvement in the planning of this event. God bless you all. I appreciate all my teachers from primary and secondary school, as well as my lecturers at the university and career mentors, particularly Professor J.O. Adewi, Professor P.O. Olatunji, Professor O.G. Ibegunam, Professor A.O. Sholadoye, Professor A.S. Anjorin, Professor A.B. Okeshina, Professor O.E. Olorundare, Professor L.D. Edungbola, Professor W.R. Johnson, Professor B.J. Bojuoye, Professor A.B.O. Omotosho, Professor O. Fakeye, and many others. I cannot forget to specially thank Sir Dr. Ademola Aderibigbe for facilitating my first trip overseas for a 3-month training in tissue typing at Sheffield Kidney Institute, United Kingdom in 2008. Additionally, I want to thank Professor S.K. Ernest for facilitating my trip to Manchester for a 2-month exchange program. God bless you, sirs. I want to express my gratitude to the pastors, elders, deacons, and members of Rema Chapel International Churches for their prayers and support. My gratitude also goes to all members of ILOMSA 91, represented here by Professor M.O. Buhari, former DVC RTI, Dr. D.O. Olarewaju, Professor Omotayo Adesinu, and so on. Additionally, I extend my thanks to the 1984 graduating class of Federal Government College Ilorin, represented here by Professor Omotayo Adesinu and Professor Peter Ajiboye. I also express my gratitude to all the chairmen and members of the NMA, MDCAN, M1, and CNP Ilorin chapter. I express my gratitude to all my friends, neighbors, and members of Ipe and Igosun community, and everyone in this audience, both in person and online, for your prayers, support, and presence. I thank my children, Adeyemi and Boluwatife Ajala, Caris and Jordan Olawumi, Grace Olawumi and Joanna Olawumi, as well as my grandchildren, Gabriela and George Ajala. I love you all. Lastly, but not the least, my husband, Oluwatoyin Olawale Olawumi, my one and only sweetheart. I greatly appreciate your love and encouragement. You have always told me you can whenever I felt I couldn't. And you always gave me a push whenever I was unmotivated. You are the springboard that God used to propel me to the heights I've attained today. May God continue to bless and reward your labor of love for me. Amen. Thank you all once again. May God bless you all. Amen and amen. Thank you. I think that's what you anyway. Oh, yes, it's like,
Another round of applause for our 279th inaugural lecturer, Professor Anna Oluwayemisi Olawumi. Congratulations. And on behalf of all of us, we wish to appreciate some of our guests here seated this evening. I start with our university scholars. Thank you so very much for coming. We appreciate our employers, Professor Abdulrasheed Abiodun Adeoye, Professor Folu Orogre, who is joining us online. We want to appreciate our own heroes. We start with Professor J.O. Adewi. We appreciate you, sir. Professor A.B. Okeshina, thank you for coming. Professor A.B.O. Omotosho, we appreciate you, sir. Professor W.B.R. Johnson and his wife, thank you for coming. Professor J.A. Obaleye, thank you, sir. Professor Olawumi, you are appreciated, sir. Former CNP, Professor Latimore is joining us online, and the current and ever dynamic CND, Professor A.D. Yusuf, thank you so very much for coming. Mr. Shola Oladipo, former special assistant of Deputy Governor of Kwara State, we appreciate you, sir. Reverend George Adoboye, the senior minister in charge, Rema Chapel International, thank you. Professor Yisa Pakule, who is also joining us online, we appreciate you, sir. Teaching and non-teaching staff of the university, students of the university, students of the College of Health Sciences, Professional and Social Association, College of Nigerian Pathologists, Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria, Nigerian Medical Association, Medical Women Association of Nigeria, Nigerian Society for Hematology and Blood Transfusion, African Society for Blood Transfusion. We thank you all for joining us. Professor P. O. Olatuju is also joining us online. Professor E.A.O. Afolanya, one of the heroes, thank you for coming, sir. Professor Olufunke Esan Oludare, we appreciate you, ma. Mr. Funsho Emimola, thank you. Professor and Mrs. Badebo Olaoye, we thank you. Mama, the mother of the inaugural lecturer, Mrs. Victoria Oluwafunilayo Onipado, thank you, me. And the children of the inaugural lecturer, Adeyemi and Boluwatife Ajala, we appreciate you. Charles and Jordan Olawumi, thank you. Grace Olawumi, we appreciate you. Joanna Olawumi, thank you for coming. And of course, the one and only sweetheart, Pastor Oluwatoyin Olawale Olawumi, we appreciate you, sir.
Shall we arise for the university anthem? The university anthem. Once again, we want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being a part of the 279th and the series of inaugural lectures of this university. Please kindly remain where you are as the Vice Chancellor's procession recesses. Please remain where you are. Now let's have the university scholars. Please remain where you are. Let's allow the university scholars. And to be followed by the immediate family of the inaugural lecturer, Mama, the husband, and the children. Please let's allow the teacher of our inaugural lecturer, yes, vice chancellors, provosts, former provost deans, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, MDCAN members, UITH staff,